Here we are with the 12th episode, I believe, and probably the most exciting one we've had. Um, I let's see,
Probably the most
yeah,
exciting, not the most exciting, but probably.
probably the most
One
exciting for now. Um, we are going to be breaking down Mary from Theme Park Vision. Got an exclusive interview with Eugene, who is the president of Dollywood, so the guy that makes all the decisions. So very exciting stuff. So we're going to kind of break down and go a little bit more in depth about some stuff that he said and kind of share our thoughts and all that fun stuff. Oh, we have Lewis from Figments in Time, and then we have Mary from Theme Park Vision. So,
Hello.
our all-star cast back together.
And you are
Oh, I am Bubba / Dollywood Outsider.
Slash. We're calling you Slash from now on.
I do
Ooh,
not play
Slash
the
is a
Get
guitar.
off,
good
Slash.
one.
I do not play the
Slash.
guitar though.
All
So
right.
I think we're
Well,
gonna have some video to show as we go along, in case your memory is not as good as.
but the good news is that even though we're going to show the video, for those of you at home, you'll still be able to hear the audio. So basically what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to play the interview, the answers that Eugene gave me for these questions, and then we're going to talk about a little bit about what our opinions are, concerns, what we interpreted off of what he said, all of that fun stuff. That's the plan, at least. We'll see if it
No
works.
holds barred.
And I think the exciting part is this is more big picture stuff and not like right away stuff typically. So
And this is going to be a multi-episode too. We're going to break this into 2 episodes because, well, yeah,
Or 3.
I think it's going to be a lot.
Or
or 3.
16
Who
if you
knows?
have to.
yeah, that the 357 mark, he talks about what you should feel when you enter the theme park.
Obviously one of our main things that we're really known for here at Dollywood, the best way I can explain it is by what we call each other as host.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually inviting you over to our home, and when you come here, we want to make sure that you feel like that, that you feel like you're being welcomed into our home. And at the end of the day, after all of the interactions that we have with our guests that are visiting here, we hope that you leave feeling like you're a member of our family or you're a close friend, and that we've done our job to make sure that everyone feels welcome.
And I have to say, the hosts do a fantastic job with that. You do a fantastic job with that. I think it really does. When you walk into the park, you do have that family feel because of all of the energy that they have. Even the first time you walk in, you've got the photographer sitting there. They're always so excited and get you in the mood and get you hyped up. So.
Yeah. The thing that's really special about our industry, and if you think about our DNA as Smoky Mountain country and who Dolly is and what she represents, not only to our community, but to the entire world, you'd obviously figure out that we'd be really welcoming to everyone, and that we'd be working hard to make sure that we could do a good job of caring for people's needs. But the interaction with families is also really important to our parent company, Herschend. And Jack and Pete Herschend, our founding fathers, they've been in the business 75 years. Last year, we celebrated our 75th anniversary for them. They're still active and they're on our board of directors. They still help guide us. And it's so fun to get a chance to interact with both Peter and Jack Herschend. And I consider it a great honor to just be able to walk the park and hear their thoughts on where we've come from, but particularly interesting to how they feel about where we're going as an organization and our approach to being family oriented. And they've done a great job of that. And I think if you think about the partnership that they created with Dolly Parton over 40 years ago, we're getting ready to open up into our 41st season together.
All the anniversaries last year.
I mean, it's a lot to do with their focus on family and doing good for the communities where we all live and work. And I think those brand tenants have made that relationship really, really successful over time. Yeah.
And just them being able to see too, I can't imagine, wow, 75, that seeing the growth and seeing the changes over the past several years, not just from Dollywood, but from their other parks as well. That's amazing.
They started their business as a cave operation in Branson, Missouri, and then they grew up and created Solar Dollar City Branson. And then when that started to go so well, they were looking for a way to expand, and they looked out onto the Tennessee market and saw this place here, and that's when they decided they were gonna purchase this from Hart Odell, who was then the owner of the Cleveland Browns, and he needed money for the draft to try to help his football team. And I don't know how well that worked out for the Cleveland Browns back then or now, but it sure did work out well for the Hershans, because that led their way into a partnership with Dolly Parton.
One and only.
I mean, the history's been written from there, and now we're a force in the state of Tennessee in terms of tourism.
Oh yeah.
We're the largest attraction in the state of Tennessee, and that all comes from their foundation.
So what do you think? Do you feel like it's home when you step into Dollywood? Do you think how do you feel like they're doing on that? I know you said to him, you cut this part out. Said to him, they're great. But what are your feelings there?
I mean, I feel like it does. I mean, obviously, I feel like you're still going to be you're obviously walking into a theme park. So, I feel like they do overall a good job with that welcoming feeling. Like, I will say, like, as soon as you walk through the park and the photographer is sitting there, that photographer, they are always so energetic, so happy when they're taking your picture. They are, at least in my experience, and that kind of sets the tone for your entire day. So in that regards, I do feel like it does feel like home, and I like how they're keeping it family focused.
It does too.
The photographer's not there at the end of the night, but
I don't get that.
yeah.
All of the photographers are gone at one point, and I don't understand why.
I mean, they are hosts, so at the end of the day, they're like, it's time to get out. You know,
Like,
we
I'm
need to go to
done.
bed. We gotta get up tomorrow. We gotta clean the house before people come back tomorrow.
It does feel like home to me, but that could be because I've been going to the park my entire life, and that opening, and when you first walk in there, that part's not changed really, like, at all. I mean, like, they decorate it with the festival stuff now, but overall, that little section there has not changed at all, really, for my whole life. So, since I remember. But it doesn't start there. It starts when you're talking about the hosts and stuff.
I think one thing that's interesting about it feeling like home is the way they changed it to have the security and then that big promenade. That doesn't feel it feels very like a long way away. Even when you take the tram, you get off the tram, it's a long way away. You've got to walk to the thing. I mean, some people don't have the mobility problems I do, admittedly, but it feels like a long way. You don't feel like anything until you get.
That whole section feels unfinished.
Yeah.
That whole open area, I feel like they have long-term plans for the entire, and I could be jumping the gun with it, but I feel like they have long-term plans for the whole front section of the park, and that was just like the first phase, because that whole section where it's just expanded like that feels weird, and I agree. It kind of almost takes you out of it for a moment because it's so far and just there's nothing there. They've thrown a photographer over there recently, but it's like it's missing something. It's too much space.
Yeah, it feels like something needs to be moved backwards or forwards or something.
Again, I do wonder if the plan is everything is going to like move forward, and that's why there's that huge space, and they're going to move like the ticket booths and all of that, because that front area, once you get to where the ticket booths are, it feels crowded. Like, it feels very cramped up. Like, if you're going to have a huge space, put it over there, not before you get to that section. Does this make sense?
Yeah. Because most people don't use the ticket booth because most people have season passes. So I feel like that you've got a lot of, I don't know, but I'm guessing you don't have every one of those booths isn't filled up with workers. It's usually just a few.
It would be
Yeah.
great to move the gate back out towards
Mhm.
the other side. Move the ticket, build the ticket thing
Yeah.
over where you have the scooters.
It's
Which-
kind of too
that
cramped when
building
you
was
get
my
in.
favorite building they ever built.
Which one? Oh, the scooter
building.
one.
I've occasionally really needed, and going all the way into the park was. Ooh.
No, I agree, because when I was injured, I experienced that, and having a torn ACL, meniscus, and a sprained foot, walking all the way into the park to get a scooter was definitely not the best of experiences, because it was a long walk. So I agree with you on that. And I do feel like the front of the park, like once you get into the actual main entrance, like once you're in there in Dollywood, that also feels cramped. Like I said, I feel like they're gonna move it all back, possibly.
Yeah, that area gets
The
cramped.
going in is just getting a lot.
Yeah, that area gets cramped because you've got people immediately take pictures of the signs. Everybody runs to the bathroom. You got the husbands waiting around outside there, and so that area does get pretty crowded at 11 o'clock.
Especially because
in
it's a huge photo op, because that's like the main entrance, kind of like Disney, it's the castle. But guess what? You have all of Main Street to take a
Yes.
picture. With Dollywood, you have this little tight space. It is cramped now that we're talking about it. I'm like, ooh, still feels like you're entering like you're a family, but I do just think they need to expand that whole section.
There's something about you need the space. The park needs an icon, something that you think. And Show Street Theater's as close as they have, but
That is their
I don't know,
castle.
they need a castle or a big ball, big geodesic dome, or
What's
Tower
something
of Terror
Dolly? Oh, a
even.
big butterfly. There you go.
a big butter, something like that. Yeah, something that makes you feel
Something like iconic. Yeah.
To me, that I guess that the sign is the closest,
The icon.
I guess, to that, and it does fluctuate a little bit with the seasonal decorations and stuff.
I do like how they've done that. That has been cute.
Yeah, that.
For
And then
instance,
they-
behind you.
Yeah, and then like the cat sky and those kind of stuff right there off to the right is sort of tied into that as well. Let's see. The next thing he talked about was the host. I think he mentioned the host, right?
Well, when he was talking about it feeling like home, he was talking about the hosts.
Oh.
Like how the
Making you
host,
feel
okay. So like how the hosts want you to feel welcome. And I think that was kind of my point, like with the photo op, like when you first enter, like that's kind of, I mean, of course you experience it with the hosts who are working the ticket stand. But for me, the one host that pops out as soon as I go into the park is the one that does the photography. Because that's really your first big experience when you get into Dollywood. That's your first experience. And sometimes with you don't really get as much with the ones working the ticket because you're just going like, scan, go. Have a good day. They're nice. But
Actually, the first people you talk to typically are either the tram riders, but you don't really talk to them. It's
I thought you were
actually
about to say security guards.
it is. Well, that was my next thing I'm gonna say. It's actually security.
That
Like,
doesn't count.
but like they
They've
do
got to
set
be
the tone.
serious. I mean, but
Actually, they're
here's the
really
thing.
good.
But
I
there
really
are some
like
that are
them.
really sweet. Anytime I have Bianca with me, they're always really sweet to her. It's kind of cute
Yeah, and
because she just waddles her way through the gate.
the Dollywood security is much more friendly than the Atlanta airport security.
Dollywood security is much more friendlier than Disney security. They can get mean.
I think they're both the same sort of. I guess they're
I
a
mean, at the
little
end of the
more
day-
easygoing at Dollywood.
I guess the security I see differently because, like, at the same time, like they can be friendly, but at the same time, they kind of have a really serious job they have to do. So I kind of don't pay as much attention to like, oh no, they were kind of rude. I don't care if they're rude. If they're keeping me safe, that's okay. You've got a stressful job.
I do like how they search things. They know what they're looking for and they look pretty quickly, as opposed to sometimes Disney I'll have my cane and it'll be the cane, and then I'll have to take everything out of my
Dollywood
bag.
used to be bad. They've recently upgraded, because every time I would go through Dollywood, I would get dinged because of cameras or battery packs. Lately, I've not been getting that. So either, like you said, they're kind of paying attention to it more and they can identify things better, or they've upgraded their system. But I will say it's been great. Now the tram riders, or the tram riders, we're the riders, they're pretty nice.
The Dollywood hosts are friendly now, but I feel like it's gone through some peaks and valleys over the last decade or two. And I feel like it's
I
up
agree.
on the higher end now.
I agree. And of course,
It's
he has a
improving
whole thing
now.
about hosts, so we can definitely get into that. But I do agree with that. I think a lot of it too is that they're really busy. I don't know if they're able to keep up with staffing. And from what he said, it's hard for them to find hosts, because he had a whole thing where he talked about that, which we'll come to that. But I think that at one point, you know, I've worked customer service years and years and years. And when we would get really, really busy and you would have people consistently being rude or hateful or mean to you, you can try to be as kind and as nice as you can. But when you have that happening on top of being understaffed or not having enough support from your supervisors, I think it can really have a toll on how you interact with guests. And I think that's just kind of the reality of it. Like, everyone's human,
They did.
just from
Expect it.
a service perspective. They talked about how much they've changed over the years and like the growth that they've seen and how they're consistently thinking of the future. Him saying 2034 was really interesting, that that's their endpoint right now. They have things planned up through 2034.
Yeah.
So that means
makes-
whether it's attractions, experiences, they have all that in place. So I like that. So we've got at least
8 years.
quite a few more years of getting new attractions and stuff before they start playing in the next section, which does make me think, is that including like the resorts? The campground's supposed to be coming. Now I don't know when that's coming, but the campground's supposed to be the next thing.
I think
So-
what you really would think is that next year they'll have it to 35, and then next year they'll have it to 36.
So
and
just keep
like they're always, you always
they're
got a
constantly
window.
thinking. Yeah, but I mean, I guess that's good. But I think it shows that they're not stopping. Like, they're constantly thinking about the future, thinking about things they can change. I guess from my perspective, like, one thing I would really like for them, and I'm sure they're staying on top of this, is just that growth piece. Because last year you could really tell they were going through some growing pains. You could really tell last year.
In
They're
what
going
areas do
through
you think?
What?
In what areas do you think they had the growing pains last year?
The entire park. I think the growing pains, really where I noticed it the most, was food. All of the food. Restaurants were slammed. I waited 50 minutes at Wilderness Pass, and we weren't even that big of a line, and they were just understaffed.
Yeah, staffing is an issue, and
And
it kind of it has been since
Well,
COVID.
And they're
Now they're
not
staffing,
I
staffing and predicting is hard.
Yes, I think that's what's
Meeting
hard, is
there.
they're trying to predict when they're going to be busy and when they need to put in certain hosts, and then they're busier than what they anticipated, and they're like, they don't have the amount of hosts there, and so the hosts get overwhelmed. And so I think they're growing, them consistently thinking about the future. I think that's where they need to start trying to predict. I mean, and that's hard, but maybe predict what a little bit more than what they are. So like, maybe if they are predicting a certain how many thousands of people are going to be in the park this day, okay, but we have a new attraction opening this year, we'll probably need to anticipate that we're going to be a little busier than we were before.
Oh, for
So
sure.
that's just, I don't know what y'all's thoughts are on that, but that's kind of when he said consistently thinking about the future. I wasn't so much thinking about the attractions and stuff side of things. I was also thinking about consistently thinking about the future in regards to operation. Like, how are they going to operate in the future?
Yeah, I mean, there's certain days that they know, and that everybody knows it's going to be busy Saturday and spring break. But I feel like this year there was more surprise days that, like, I wasn't there, but you would see some random Tuesday in August, and it's, packed and that, all like, that type of stuff. It's not the Saturday in October. Everybody knows those are going to be busy.
Yeah, I agree.
In this clip here, he talks about the realities of running a theme park, and that's something we always try to bring perspective in here from like the business side of things as well. So so that's kind of what this is about, talking about the business side of things behind the scenes that a lot of people don't think about, but we try to give some context too.
Well, we're obviously a business.
Yeah.
We pay for our investments the same way other businesses pay for their investments. We have to have a return to our parent company because money isn't free.
No.
And we actually have to pay our mortgage off as if you were buying a house, and eventually you have to pay off that ride.
Yep.
And then you have to be able to finance your new attraction or your new experience that you're going on. So there really is a little bit of a business, decision making that you actually have to make, but it's also balancing the host and guest experience because that's really important to me, as a leader, and as I'm thinking about what to do and how do we progress as a campus long term. It really is about managing both the host and guest experience, and it's a balance. And there's a science and a chicken and the egg scenario behind how we go about making the decisions on when we do things and even how we do things related to our investment strategy. Everyone saw the new parking lot open last year in 2025. We added 750 spaces, but that was really in preparation for Night Flight Expedition. So we had spent $7 million on adding more spaces because we had been running out of parking on our busier days.
That number floors me.
And that you can't invite new people over to your house if you don't really have a place for them to park. So that really was sort of got to have more parking if you're going to do this big attraction that we eventually released as Night Flight Expedition, because you can't invite more people over unless there's a place for them to stay. You can't hire more hosts for Night Flight Expedition unless you have more parking. We were out of host parking in the back. We were at our limit, which is why when you walked into my office this morning, you saw a new parking lot that we built last year and worked on it this off season, getting ready to officially open this spring, because we're going to have 50 more hosts working for us for Night Flight, and they needed a place to park. So it's kind of the strategy of that ball.
So what's the first thing to me, I guess the big thing is the reality of people don't think about the money, obviously, how expensive stuff is. And when he threw around some figures there, so I think that had to catch everybody's attention off the bat.
The fact that a parking lot was $7 million, that's a lot of money for a parking lot.
And that's something that's not exciting to spend money on a parking lot. It's needed, but it's not.
He talks excitedly about parking. I get it too. I love logistics.
Because I mean, realistically though, how many people did they turn away before that parking lot existed? They couldn't fit anybody else.
Right. When he mentioned the $7 million for the parking lot, that was the one last year?
That was just that one parking lot.
And there's another one similar to that coming. Is it this year?
I know he mentions it. It's either continuing this question or it's a different question, because he goes into depth about the new parking lot.
Because
the new parking lot, I think he said it's going to be behind the one that there is now, because he talked about how they're also going to they'll have to pay to get a new tram or a new set of trams. So that's going to be more money.
Right.
That's up.
And to me, the first thing I think of too, well, not the first thing, but like I always think of, and I'll get heated for this, is why Dollywood hasn't raised their prices more.
Easy now.
Because they haven't.
We are looking now for another host. If there's anybody who wants to be on a podcast about Dollywood, we're down a host now.
But here's the thing. They are sneakily, I don't want to say sneakily, because that doesn't sound nice. So I'm going to, sorry for saying that. They kind of are raising prices. They're not raising the price of the tickets, but we have Boo Bash coming. They have a whole separate event at Splash Country coming.
But Boo Bash is like 2 days.
merchandise. So, I mean, they're kind of raising their prices in other areas. The tasting pass,
$48 and
the new
71
one,
cents.
that's the one that came
Yeah.
out today.
Yeah, and I don't think that counts the
that more?
discount.
Today?
Was that more than last year?
It's going to be about the same, I think, by the time.
It is?
time you
I'm
add-
It
surprised
seems
they didn't
slightly
raise
more
that
than I
price.
paid at Christmas.
It was
'Cause it's-
more? Okay. Well,
Feels slightly more than at Christmas.
it does.
Christmas
Okay.
was Christmas
So-
was more. Halloween was less. Like the price went up at Christmas.
Which is
Now
wild
it went
because
up.
Christmas had less available. That annoys me.
I know
That
it was really
I don't
odd.
like that. Christmas didn't have as good of stuff than Halloween and fall. I don't know why they raised that. But my point is, all this to say, I feel like even if they're not increasing ticket prices, they're increasing everything else in the park right now. Like other things are getting increases. I also, if you have noticed the app, I don't know if anyone's been on the app lately. They now have Time Saver on the app, which leads me to think, are they about to add individual attractions like we have speculated? Are they going to add individual attractions to that app? Because that's going to be more money they're going to be able to make. And to be quite honest, I fully expect the prices to go up next year for the tickets, at least a little bit. I fully expect it. I'll be shocked if the prices don't get increased next year.
But you would have thought, I would have thought they did it this year with the ride coming.
Well, they're also raising capacity next year, so that helps.
Mm-hmm.
You know, adding another ride really helps, and especially
and
something
adding
that's
parking.
several thousand an hour, right?
That was interesting about the parking and how the because I like parking lot F. That's my favorite one. I mean, outside of the C, because I would rather walk and then have to do the. I don't like the trolley. It just slows me down.
Oh, you got me out on that one. I was excited as all get out when he said, "Oh, and we're looking at a new train spot." Thank goodness. Now I normally park preferred, so I don't walk that far. And we have a puppy. No, we have a puppy who is highly anxious and she is scared of everything. And we tried to put her on the tram one time and she hated me for a year. So, okay. So Eric just told me that since we're talking about the app, you can also now get the Time Saver, I Will Always Love You Music Festival Tasting Pass. Yeah. So all of the tasting passes are listed on here, the premium, the plus, it's all for sale now. So you can get all of the Time Savers now for the new season and you can get the tasting pass.
Did you say tasting pass premium or is that
No.
Time Savers? Okay.
Time Saver premium. Instead of 5 options, you get 6.
Will they bring it to me at the table? Is that the premium version?
That's a separate episode.
No, that's the dessert only pass. But all this to say, personally, I like that they added more spaces. That just kind of, the F parking lot to me was a little struggle because it's so far away and you already have quite the hill to hike up already for where it is for Prefer. I think the F parking lot, it seemed like they've started using that more so for like if you have trailers, the buses. It seems like that's where a lot of those are going. Now, if you don't mind walking or don't mind the hill, the F lot is great and it still is a good overflow in case they need it. I think part of what they want to do too, I don't know if they want to keep utilizing Splash Country as overflow unless needed, especially during the summer when you have people who are going to Splash Country and then they get there. I'm not kidding. It was the year before. The last time I went to Splash Country, we weren't even wanting to go to Dollywood that day. We just wanted to go to Splash Country. I had to park in the grass all the way in the back just to get to Splash Country because it was summer and they were utilizing the parking lot for Dollywood.
If you could take out Splash Country, you would also speed up the trolley rides as well. Because
wait now, hold up now. Yeah. Like the parking lot or Splash Country, the park?
No, I mean, I like the parking lot. If you don't do parking lot in Splash Country, that would save time. That would save the longest visit.
So you're
for
saying
the-
take out Splash
trolley
Country. I'm
ride.
like, wait a minute.
But you do want people to be able to move back and forth, though. You don't want them to be stuck in the one park.
You still want to be able to, like, it's nice that they have that transit, but I do feel like Dollywood itself, I think the F parking lot, they couldn't just drop another $7-8 million because this next parking lot is going to be more expensive because they're going to have to not only do the parking lot, they're going to have to pay for new trams. They're going to have to hire tram drivers, and then they're going to have to pay for a whole loop on top of
They
all
should.
of that.
I should just put a 3 or 4 story parking garage up in F and just get
I
it
thought
done.
that was the original plan. I thought they were supposedly supposed to be getting a parking garage. There's probably a reason they didn't. Every time I ask a question, there's always there's a why. There's a reason. I think another thing that he said was interesting too, because one thing I think he really because people you're getting a lot of backlash right now from people regarding the price increases, making certain changes and stuff. So I think him explaining, hey, just a parking lot is this much. And then on top of that, I mean, honestly, I didn't even think about the part where they have to build parking lots for the host. Like, the host needs to be able to park somewhere. They're not utilizing the guest parking, so they have to build them additional spots. So the bigger the park gets, they're going to have to also think about that as well in regards to financing to make sure that the hosts are accommodated, as they should. But
Well, I'm going to say this. People don't care about that. We don't care that Tron cost $1 million to build. We don't care the Lightning, that night flight costs whatever it costs, right? People care about how much it costs them. And that's why I say, go ahead and raise the prices to, get it over with if you're gonna do it. Because people are gonna complain about if you cut prices, people are gonna complain about the prices. People complain about free money. People complain about everything. Rational people do go, oh yeah, we get more for our money. Irrational people say, Dollywood used to be $10 a day. Yeah. And it had a train that rode around, and the entrance was over here, and
and they had a tunnel before it was moved.
okay, he explained the tunnel. That was a safety issue. I appreciate that change.
This is a clip where he talks about the guest and host feedback, and it's kind of one of those areas that a lot of people, myself included, may not even realize you can do.
The host get overwhelmed at one point, or do you take that feedback into consideration too?
We do. We really do. And we survey our hosts just like we survey our guests. We have
Really?
yeah,
Okay.
we have
That makes
an
sense.
ENPS survey, just same way we have Net Promoter Score surveys that help kind of score us in terms of our overall guest experience. We do the very same thing for our host, because that will help guide us in making the right decisions on how we as leaders can support the host. Because I often say, you can't give what you don't get yourself. It's difficult to really care for the experience of our guest if you don't have a good host experience. And so we pay particular attention, to that. And that really influences what we do overall. Like, we constantly are looking at our operating calendar. I mean, I know everyone out in the universe
so
is
excited
trying
when I saw it a few weeks ago.
Everyone out in the universe is trying to figure out, well, why are they doing that? Why are they opening longer on those 37 days that are on the calendar, though, that they're opening at 9 and go to 11? It's really about the data behind when people are visiting, and to care about both the host and guest experience. Spreading and having more time to experience the park on those busier days will help spread out the crowds a little bit. You'll be able to have the ability to have more rides and more shows on a busier time of the year. Spring break comes the same time every year. Fall comes the same time. Fall breaks come near the same time every year. So does Christmas. The last 2 weeks of Christmas are always going to be our really busiest time of our operating calendar. So we know that. Okay, well, let's try to change our approach. But those things don't come free, because when you add operational hours, it adds expense. So maybe you'll look at your operating calendar and know that when August is here and people are starting to shift back to getting ready for school, and there's less people on property at night here, perhaps that's a more efficient way of delivering, a better overall guest experience for the entire operating calendar, but still give the opportunity for others to experience the park, because not everyone goes back to school like Tennessee goes back to school early. We're open for others that go back after Labor Day, but we have to also care for our hosts, because we can't overwork them so much that
I'm sure they appreciate not being overworked.
They can't deliver a good experience. So it feeds, all these things come back and forth in terms of why we do what we do, and sometimes people understand that and sometimes they don't, but we are over here trying to make the best possible approach to the overall experience and do it in the least risky way that we can from an expense perspective. I mean, even cutting back the hours in some parts of the year helps us afford to do things like Boo Bash.
I'm going to make the executive decision to stop there. So we could do that's a whole other topic. So he kind of went into two different things. He started talking about the host and how their feedback is important, and then kind of led into how they're utilizing that information regarding like extended hours now.
Do they mean, when he says survey, does that mean that email survey that I get after I come? Is that what he's talking about?
Yeah, so they send something similar to the host as well. So just kind of, it sounds like they send a similar one asking about like their overall experiences, maybe things that they can work on, or that the host would like to see done different. I will say it's nice to hear that they are taking the host feedback into consideration, because like I said, at the end of the day, their hosts are what's going to make the experience make or break.
I hope it's very anonymous too, because it's really hard to criticize your employer if they can.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's anonymous. I know where I work, our surveys are, well, they tell us they're anonymous.
They tell us that they're anonymous.
They tell us that they're anonymous. But I do like how he is kind of saying that they are taking that in consideration, and that with the hours and everything, they also don't want to make sure that they're not overworking the host. So I'm wondering if that means the situation where you're now going to have like different shifts for these hosts for day versus night as well.
Yeah, because if you're talking about on those 11 o'clock days, you're probably talking 13-hour days or something like that. So, but yeah, I mean, like I think of on cruises, they do a survey, and and it's taken very seriously. If you ever, and like the staff will tell you that it's make or break for them, and so it would make some sense for Dollywood maybe to do a kind of tweak their system or make it where people are more aware that it does matter. Where right now, I very rarely ever fill out the survey, but now maybe I guess I need to.
Because it does. And, I don't know if any of the surveys are host specific, but, just them allowing the host to give that feedback. Because like I said, on days where, from a customer service perspective, on days when you're absolutely slammed and you're short staffed, and then on top of that, you have guests who may or may not be the friendliest, or who may be having a really rough day, and unfortunately the hosts are who get the brunt of their anger. I can see where hosts could get really burnt out from that and just get to a point where they're just like, I just want to get through the day. I'm going to give the bare minimum. And not every host I'm saying is like that, and not every person is going to be like that. But again, human. I see that perspective.
I mean, I think there's certain types of, to me, the food people would get more hate than the ride people would get.
Oh,
I mean, yes, if they're out of food or you get badly cooked food, which happens, right?
Or you wait in line for 45 plus minutes.
Yeah, or they're they're out of the things, or they've stopped having catfish at the restaurant you waited to get catfish in. Something like that. But, attractions, they last a minute. When things go down or they've got to change things, they've got to change staff, I think they get hassled a lot. I hassle
think
them a lot in a nice way. But
I stay quiet and I just sit there or I leave the line. I don't like confrontation though, so that's a me issue. But I will say for me, I think where I do get the most kind of like, oh my gosh, is the food. I have a little bit more tolerance with the rides when I'm waiting for long periods of time. With food, when I'm already hungry and it's hot outside and the line's 45 minutes for a festival item, I can see where people get a little impatient. Now, being impatient and being frustrated is also no reason to take it out on the host who are doing their best and who also may be overworked. Or like an instance where I sat there and saw a couple standing around while one person did all the work. I felt so bad for that person. But again, that could also be instances of training for Dollywood and training and development opportunities for Dollywood for their host, because at the end of the day, that's going to have an impact on your guest. It's kind of a back and forth. The guest is going to get mad at the host is going to get mad at the guest, and it's just a bad experience across the board. So
yeah, if they gave us something like, when you go near if you're using like an Apple phone, or probably Android does this too, when you get close to the front, it pops up a thing that says, scan your park ticket. If they gave us something that popped up like that at attractions or in areas and said, rate the host in this area, that'd be spectacular. Because then you would do it. Plus, negative, whatever.
Yeah, I think with what Lewis said, in modern times, most people don't want to sit down and take 10 minutes to fill a survey, but they would take a minute, 30 seconds to say so-and-so at the bakery was friendly. So maybe there's a way to simplify that and go to somebody's email and that kind of stuff.
Which he did talk about later in the interview. We did specifically, because that was something that a question I had brought up for the content creator event, was I wanted to know if they were considering basically an easier way to give guests feedback, because there is one hostess. There is one host at the Front Porch Cafe, and I don't want to name like any names particularly because I don't want to either get somebody in trouble or anything like that. But there is one particular host, and I know you watch me, and I know you know who I'm talking about, at Front Porch Cafe, who is one of the best and sweetest hosts I have ever had an interaction with at Dollywood. She truly did a remarkable job, not just in regards to like her job, but she was such a friendly, kind. That was one of the best experience I think I have had ever for a server. And that was where that question came up, is I was like, I want to compliment this girl. Like, I want Dollywood to know how impressed we are. And we realized, I don't know how to do that. There's not a simplified way to do this. Well, now I'm a little annoyed because I want to brag on this host. So from what Eugene told me, though, they're trying to figure it out as a way to do it on the app. So, but for now, you can go to the front of the park and fill it out.
And he kind of changed subjects to probably a more exciting one for a lot of people, and that was the I think he said 37 days that they would be open till 11 o'clock, which is something I really like the sound of that.
I haven't seen
I
that
have
on
been
the
wanting
calendar.
to do that for years. It's certain days.
Let me pull up the calendar here and see what.
So if you go to the app and you go to the schedule and you go to April 12th, it's 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. You can't see it because of my background, but it's on the app.
Yeah, some in Christmas time.
Christmas, I'm surprised they didn't decide to do the whole time.
I got to be honest with you. I'm not looking forward to that. I really like it when they close at 6, because then I don't feel like I need to stay until 11. If they open at 11, they close at 6. That's just the perfect time to drive up, go to Dollywood, leave. I'm mostly kidding, but
Lewis is like, no, I'm going to stay till 11 o'clock.
How hard will it be to leave at 9? Because it's, fireworks, people leave. You're left with the people that like to ride stuff. It's really perfect. The last hour. Now imagine that there's 2 more hours of that. It's going to be fantastic.
I think it's a way for them to spread out crowds too, because you have certain people who will want to rope drop, and then by the afternoon they're exhausted, so they go home. Or you have the people who are like, well, I'll come in a little bit later and stay till later. So I think this is a smart way for them to balance those crowds out.
Now now he acted like they would push the shows back or add additional shows. Is that that's how I took that? He's, typically
I
your
would
shows
think they-
will end
Mhm.
about 5 o'clock or so, roughly. Somewhere in that
It's
range.
really early.
I
Maybe they'll add a couple of show times,
can't imagine that.
but they would
go
have
over.
to consider staffing too for that more time, won't they? Because not just the staffing for the performers, but then you've got to think about all the technical staff too.
Yeah,
So that may be just another cost they have to consider.
And they may stagger
So
the
I-
shows and do some other
They could do that.
things.
maybe you
Yeah.
start one later in the day instead of that kind of
Mhm.
stuff.
But I'm also
Yeah.
going to say they probably realize that the showgoers probably going to leave after dinner, and then the riders are going to stay until be dragged out of there.
I think he's right.
Goodness, but that is true though. That is a good point. I'm gonna say the quiet part out loud. It's the younger generation who's going to be going on the rides late at night.
Well, it's not just younger; it's the people that like shows. I mean, if they're just there for shows, if they're not riding people,
Except for the spring when they removed all the shows for the older generation.
because so I sort of wonder: is there an overlap of people that like both shows and rides that big?
There's not there's not a lot. It's
I'm not
I
saying
do.
there isn't.
I like them both. Not well, yeah.
I don't.
Well,
the
yes, kind
the
of.
people.
Some of
I-
them. I'm gonna say that. Some of them.
Fair enough.
I target.
I think in general, there are some hybrids, but I think most people fall into one category or the other.
And Christmas is
That is
different,
true.
obviously, for sure.
Oh,
At Christmas
is
time,
fair game.
everybody likes Christmas shows and Christmas music. That's a
Mhm.
I think
I'm
we're probably.
excited. I like late night Dollywood. I'm excited for it.
I think it's going to work, and I think it'll be really fun. I think the exclusivity and the different components that'll activate during Boo Bash, that'll be different than our normal operating times, will, I think, really make it worthwhile for people to show up and purchase that separate gated ticket for Boo Bash, because it's going to be a unique and exclusive
Yeah.
event. And quite frankly, we're going to cap the attendance. So it's going to be a way for us to make sure that we show good value to the guests that are coming in during that period of time. It'll be a great opportunity to ride our rides with a lot less people in line, and perhaps even more frequently than you would during regular operations in a more condensed period. So we're looking forward to seeing how that works for us this year, and I could easily see that evolving, not only in the future into more days, for Harvey's Boo Bash, but perhaps maybe some other times of the year that might be fun to do. More nighttime experiences like that.
No, and I think that's I'm actually so excited. And I love how you said unique, because I think that's one thing, especially for me, when I've done exclusive events at different theme parks in the past, that's kind of what I'm looking for is, okay, awesome. There's going to be a little bit of a different, price tag with it, but what is unique about this? Like, what different experiences do we get? And so I love that you use that wording, because that's kind of what, for me, I don't know about anyone else, but that's what I look for. Is what are unique experiences can I have that you can't have at a normal day at Dollywood? It would be. I am interested in Boo Bash. I'm very interested to see what happens with that. I love Halloween events or fall.
It's the it's the second most popular holiday in America.
So the headliner here for the Harvey's Boo Bash is, if you take a step back, it's clearly this is a trial run to see if you're going to see more of these in the future, because it's only maybe 3 days or something like that. I think it's not very long.
Not
but the
many
headline,
days at all.
yeah. So it's clearly a trial run to see if it's going to work for other stuff.
This one's really interesting to me because I don't know what they can do. I don't know how much they can do. Like, okay, I was a big Thrills and Hills fan. The last couple of years, they haven't done anything other than extra hours and some food, right? They haven't done the tour, the kind of big things. Taking their tours, they're okay. I mean, it's good. It's good to get some background. But to do this, we're going to need a show. We're going to need that Monster Mash show, whatever that was from the Play On show.
I was thinking that though. Like they'll Well, he's mentioned, of course, candy. So I'm assuming they're partnering like how Disney is partnered with Mars. Is it Mars that they're partnered with?
Yes.
Whatever candy company they're partnered with. I'm assuming Dollywood is partnered with some kind of candy company. And that's where that's going to come into play. Because he mentioned you're going to have like plenty of candy. So I'm assuming it's going to be something similar to like what Disney does in regards to that. You're going to have the, but they're really staying very quiet on Boo Bash. Like, not a lot is coming out about it, and I think they may still be trying to figure it out. Now, what I would like to see is maybe a separate show, like you said, that what was it, Monster Mash?
Yeah, they
A separate
play on theirs.
show
They did a segment that had
of
the Monster Mash.
fireworks show would be interested in. I know Adventures is out there. They also did an interview with Eugene, and in their interview, they mentioned that the drones are going away. The drones are not a permanent thing. So I say I would like to see maybe a drone show, but those are going away. So a fireworks show maybe, or lasers or something like that. But yeah, that's my thing is I'm really interested in see, because at one point I will say though, I think the rides is, I'm trying to be thinking of how to phrase this, but I think the rides is a good perk. And I think night flight is going to be a good perk if it is included, because Disney has had a bad habit of brand new attractions during these after hour events are not included.
Yeah,
You
at least
can't
to
get
start
them.
with.
It's to start with. So I do hope
How
that's
much-
not going to be the case with this.
How much does it cost? You
For
know?
Disney?
No, like how much does the Harvey's Boo Bash cost?
Tickets aren't
No.
on sale yet. I have no
Okay.
idea.
But yeah,
I
that
think
was my
that's
question.
figuring it out. So I think that with Dollywood 2, lines aren't that long. They're long, but I don't know if they're long enough to where you can also say that's a perk, if that makes
If you-
sense. Like, am I the only one thinking that?
I agree, because if you want to ride the biggest rides they have without waiting too long and ride in line, you can do it if you like Lewis says, wait till the last 30 minutes and you can usually do it.
I would like to see maybe the attractions be changed a little bit. So either put us completely in the dark, put some spooky music,
please.
put some like lighting, maybe. That would be cool.
The mystery
I
mine
think
seems
that would be good to consider.
the mystery mine seems ripe to do something like that with.
Exactly. Can you also imagine like lightning rod or eagle in the pitch black?
That seems like that could be. I feel like they're not going to be able to do too much in the dark for safety, OSHA violations,
You
and
can
all.
turn the lights on. The lights can come on. We've done they even did the Blazing Fury in the dark, one of the after hours things. That was so
Ooh.
fun.
Maybe they can make
So
spooky
cool.
light. That sounds expensive. That would be really cool though. Blazing Fury at night. Put some spooky music in there. I don't know. The actual
It's obviously
soundtrack.
possible they did that when they did the lighting package. It could easily be lights
Yeah.
and LED lights in there that change already.
Another thing I want to see, and this may be on the unrealistic side of things, and I get that. I want to see exclusive merchandise for this event. I want a shirt. I want a jacket, a spirit jersey. I would like to see a pin. They're getting into the pin game now. A special pin. I would like to see exclusive merchandise and exclusive food options.
I don't
Not food
think
options you can get during the day. I want just Boo Bash food options.
I think there'll be a few, but not a lot.
Not a
Especially this
lot.
year. But I think there'll be some. There has to be some.
I think they're testing what feedback they're going to get this year.
And I don't think they're going to buy a bunch of merch, because if it doesn't sell, you're stuck giving it away.
And they have to have something.
Well,
It's just
yeah, they're gonna.
they give us shirts
If they
to
don't
go
have-
to the
They might give you a shirt included.
Girls in
or
the Hills
something
got
like that,
shirts,
but-
so I can imagine that being.
I'd say they'll have something. So they're good. I would hope they have some kind of merchandise. If I'm going to an exclusive event, I want a T-shirt with it or something. What does Disney do with theirs? Don't they just sell them like after the event's over? They just sell them for the public, and then the public buys
course.
them if they didn't go.
Yeah.
So they could do that. They have a clearance rack in the back. Throw it on the clearance rack.
I was intrigued, and I like the fact he said they were capped the number of people on there. I like that.
Mm-hmm. It's going to make the park feel really nice, because I will say that is something, even though for me, the rides, I feel like that's not as much of a perk, just because there are some times when you can still get on the rides at least within 45 minutes. Sometimes it depends on the time of the year. That is also a busy time of year. So I say that, but Luminites gets really busy. But I think the park not being as crowded during Luminites will be fantastic, because that was one of my biggest complaints last year, is I felt like a sardine in Luminites because there were so many people and I couldn't even enjoy parts of it or see the pumpkins because it was so crowded.
Yeah, you
So
get to.
Part of the time is you do go on the opening times, right?
I
'Cause you're
mean,
one
wait
of
a
the
yeah, that's not
earlygoers.
the point.
It's
That
like if
wasn't
you go,
the point.
it's like people who go on opening weekend and go, Dollywood's so busy. Of course it is, because all the people are there.
That wasn't the point. Hey, you have to admit, Halloween is busy. Luminites gets busy.
It does.
It does.
There's a few points in
Regardless.
time it does, but
Yeah.
you can also ride the rides late at night. Just saying.
That is true. That's what I'm saying, though.
People-
They're
yeah.
gonna. I'm interested to see what the additional perk is that's gonna make, because I feel like too. I wonder what their target audience is for this. Like, do they feel like it's mostly gonna be pass holders who buy this and locals, or do they think it's people who are just coming to Dollywood for the first time who want to experience it?
I would think kids with season passes would be the target audience.
Kids, I mean,
Everything Dollywood has did this year has been for kids.
I mean, they're family focused, like, so it makes sense.
So,
It makes-
yeah, I
But,
mean, I didn't mean that negative, but like that seems to be the focus. And you're talking, just hearing the name sounds like something that would be
Harvey
geared
Boo
toward
Bash.
kids.
I think that down Show Street, I think what they could do is putting certain like lighting, and maybe even, you know how they've changed the colors of the Christmas lights to that little walkthrough at the very end, the
yes,
Arctic. You know how they've changed those for Halloween? They
yes.
could do that on the trees. Instead of doing the Christmas lights, they could do Halloween lights or
That'd be cool.
spooky lights, whatever you want to say. Spooky lights to make
Lumilights.
the atmosphere. Fog machines. Look, I've got all the idea. They could put fog machines down Show Street. That's nothing.
Purple lights and some fog, and you got yourself
Instant
spooky zone.
I actually have a
zone.
video. I actually have a video of how they do the fog.
See, they could do the fog. That's a great idea. I feel like I also maybe set myself up for disappointment.
I don't think they're going to go very super heavy on decorations and then
I-
keep them.
I-
Again, you're talking 3 days out of like 6 weeks
Yeah.
or how much ever that thing
They can
festival lasts.
do wonderful things with smoke, lasers, and lights. That would cost them nothing and still make it pretty cool experience. I do feel like I don't think they're going to do too much with this event though, because it's a huge test. I don't see them putting too much money into it this time around. I think they're going to do I don't want to say the bare minimum, but I think they're going to just do certain little things, see what the feedback is, take that feedback, and then go from there and make it
Better be
bigger and
pretty-
better.
Got to be pretty cheap
I'm
in that
interested.
case. So I was at the second Jollywood, but the first Jollywood night was a disaster because they hadn't really
Oh,
planned
I
it.
know. I saw it.
And it still has a bad name for that. It's still a taste that people have in their mouth. Doesn't happen now. It's great. I mean, it's fantastic. My favorite Disney party, okay, by far. But it still has that little bit of taint that the people are like, well, it's not that good because back then it had this problem.
And I will say that's a good point because we were fully going to go the next year. The reason we didn't is because we had saw how bad it was and all the backlash. So, I mean, I think they're going to have to find a balance of still making it exciting and worth it. Like I said, decoration wise, fog machine, some pretty purple and orange lights, bam,
But
instant spooky.
Okay, one more section. What do we got? What are we talking?
I don't know.
27 minutes and 5 seconds. All right, this clip is maybe the most controversial. We're going to try not to get controversial. Or maybe not controversial, but the hardest one, and that is keeping Dollywood familiar while still involving, which is going to be really hard to do this in a couple of minutes. But that's what this clip is about.
A hard balance
Yeah.
because we're constantly evolving, and sometimes it's hard to change. Like people, you know, when you're a fan of something and you start to see that evolving over time, it becomes really difficult sometimes to really understand why. I can give you an easy example, even going back to the original change in our parking lot.
Yeah.
When I first got here in November of 2019, the arrival experience wasn't that great. And it was not easy for our hosts, and it wasn't easy for our guests. And we used to back up on the Veterans Highway in a huge way. But that's because we didn't have the right kind of capacity available for the guests that were actually coming to the park. We didn't have enough toll booths. So one of the first things we really felt like we needed to do was to try to enhance the overall arrival experience. So we changed the stack space for the front gate arrival. We gave more toll booths, so we were able to have more transactions in the hour. We changed how people entered the park. We changed the loop of the parking lot because it was inefficient having our tram and public traffic interacting with each other. Right? It became not only a safety issue, but it became a little bit of an inefficient flow issue. It slowed us down. And then as you're thinking about downstream, all the changes to how we used to do security. I mean, we used to wand people in the park. It'd take a really long time. And that was hard. And then the gate system, the ticketing system that we had was slow. So that first year, we made that big evolution. We changed the flow of the parking lot. We changed the loop. We have a private loop for our tram traffic. We treated our entire parking lot as one. We park people differently to make sure that we can manage the flow on the way in. And we basically cut the amount of time that someone spends in the parking lot in half. And we used to serve about 3,800 people an hour to go from tolls through the front gate. And now our record's 6,900 in an hour. So we've really managed to get people on property faster, which is good in my eyes from a guest perspective, because it allows them to experience the park longer for the same time commitment that they have when they're visiting here. But we're constantly having to evolve that. But that whole process was really difficult. That was tough.
I remember.
From a guest perspective. It's still a little tough on some of the original people that parked here in the property. But we're doing that with an eye on the future, and we're doing that to try to improve the overall efficiency of our operation. And we have master planned an upper loop and a lower loop in the parking lot. And we know where our expansion plans are for the I call it the upper loop, where we added the 750 spaces in 25. Well, we have it all ready, architecturally drawn for the rest of the parking lot expansion. We know where the additional roads are going to be. We know when we'll activate an upper tram loop and actually have transportation the same way we have transportation in the lower loop as we start to push out and add more parking. Over time, we'll have transportation added to the top. Right now, it's still very walkable, but if you add another section, it becomes unwalkable, and then we'll have to have transportation plans to add the upper loop transportation to make it easier for our guests to go from the front gate to the back gate.
I was going to say, and I know too, there was a lot of talk about, is Dollywood going to do a second front opening gate for guests to go into? But if you have the trams to bring you down, it's a little bit easier. You're not having to walk.
I got a question for everybody. Who is out here complaining about the parking lot? I don't get it. That part, I truly don't. The parking lot, somebody help me understand how Dollywood is getting complaints about changing the parking lot. Did I miss something?
The biggest complaint is, and this isn't from me, but the biggest complaint that people say is that when the trolley drops you off, they drop you off farther than they used to, and you have to walk
much
farther
farther
to get into the park.
Much farther.
And then my biggest thing is that when I get there first, when I'm one of the first people at the park, I have to park in parking lot C. And then people that get there at 12 o'clock get to park in parking lot A.
I will say, don't get that. That is happening. But I think parking lot A is for
glorious. Let me tell you why that's glorious. Because they used to run out of the handicap parking. And when they run out of handicap parking, those people who use mobility devices then have to go stand in line with all the other people, wait for tram, wait for this. It's great. I know it stinks that you have to park in C and then they fill in B later.
That's
if
what
it
I
doesn't
thought
fill
was
in.
happening. It was in anticipation for more.
It's the overflow. It's the overflow handicap. And
Yeah.
By the time I usually get there, 11 or 12, if they're open at 9 or 10, then you'll be right about the tram stop, and then it fills in a little bit more.
If they know it's going to overflow, though, why not just move it back and move where B starts? Like, why not make A bigger and then move where B starts and then go from there?
Because then they couldn't use it for non-handicap parking. You can't.
So when there's not enough, they can.
They
that
police
makes
it
sense.
until a certain point.
But I still don't get why people are having that much of a big deal about the parking lot changing.
I don't have
have
a major problem with the parking lot because I prefer to walk instead of the trolley. So long as I get there in the first part of C, I'm just going to walk or now the F. But I think another issue with the parking is the same people that are stealing Cokes are the same people that are borrowing their grandmother's handicap parking to get early to get a better seat.
I can show you my registration if you need.
I'm not saying most people, but they are some of those.
No, I mean, that is true. I think what Lewis said was very right. I think you're always going to have people who complain. Like, I feel like no matter what, there's going to be things somebody finds to complain about.
It's different. It's a little bit awkward getting out because you have to go back up and around, and occasionally people don't realize that and they get on going the wrong direction. It's better, but it's still awkward and different.
Yeah.
And people complain about everything. That's just saying. But I'm not saying I agree with them. And once they put the scooter outside there, I completely got it. It's better.
And again, I truly believe that is not the opening and the front gate that we see now. I truly do not think that's the front gate that we're going to end up with 10 years from now. I think there is a long-term plan for them to move all of that forward. You're still going to be walking the same amount, but it's going to feel different. I think.
They can trick you into thinking you're in the park.
You're not walking that far into the park now. You're going to be in the park within 2 seconds. Plot twist, it's just because they moved it.
I think that's fine if you go to the Magic Kingdom one day.
I know also if none of us have small kids, but if you do have small kids, the trolley can also be a little annoying with the strollers and all that kind of stuff as well.
Oh yeah, that is true.
We're going to close up this episode of our multi-part series breaking down what Eugene, the president of Dollywood, says. Anybody have any closing thoughts? Thanks to Eugene for doing the interview.
Yeah, no, seriously, thank you. I think I thanked
Better
him.
coffee.
I did bring it up. It hit me off camera, and I was like, "But where's the coffee?" So I planted the seed of hopefully getting espresso in the park.
I won't make noises
somewhere and smelling coffee as soon as smelling coffee and cinnamon bread. That sounds like the best entrance to the park. Okay, my opinion.
Bacon would be good too. Give me some good coffee, bacon and eggs, and a
turkey bacon. I had to think for a minute. I'm like, well, I don't eat pork. Turkey bacon. Okay, it's not bad. It's not bad. It tastes the same. I say that like I eat pork, and so I know what pork tastes like.
It does not taste the same. There's good tasting turkey bacon, but it does not taste like bacon.
I bought some plant-based, and it wasn't Impossible. It was a different plant-based beef, ground beef, and it tasted great. Okay, my opinion. I will say I do appreciate that he's taken the time not only to do the interview, but I appreciate that he's taken the time to explain kind of some of the whys behind certain operation and decision-making practices, even though we all know people are still going to complain regardless. For the people who do have that, and for me, I just like being told, hey, this is why we're doing it. Awesome. That's fine. Rather than just making huge changes and not giving you an explanation. I appreciate that he's kind of explaining that process. Whether or not people still like it, I don't know. I appreciate being told.
We skipped over one thing you talked about was theme parks really operate behind the curtain. I like it to be a mystery.
That's what he said.
I don't want to know how things work. And I know that it's interesting when you talk to like Pete Owen and some of the things he'll talk about, who's making this, who's doing this. I just like to know I get on and a ride.
I think from that question, I was more so looking for like, not so much like the behind the scenes, like ruining like the magic. I was more so kind of, and I probably could have phrased it in a different way. I was more so wondering about the technical side of things, like how those decisions are made, like how the finance, like what do you notice, like what do you increase, what do you keep the same? Like I think that was kind of more so what I meant, and I think I phrased it a little weird, but it wasn't so much like the magic behind Dollywood. It was more so like the curiosity of how certain decisions get made, kind of that behind the scenes.
I don't want to know that they have one big spreadsheet with all this stuff. They're just like dragging sliders around.
I'm very analytical. Maybe that's why.
I'm like, I want to build a database. I want to help you build it. I want to make your stuff work. I want to analyze people. I want to know everywhere people go. I want to make people scan into everything. That's
it was interesting the way how he described the decision-making processes behind like shows. Like they actually are analytically watching to see how many people are attending these shows. And that's what is based off of decisions to whether cut or drop down certain shows, is they are literally paying attention to the research behind who is going to these shows, how often are they going? Because if a certain show doesn't have a large crowd, they're probably going to identify a show that will take up a larger crowd and more people. So that was interesting to learn. I did like to hear that. And that's how they changed those processes.
That'll do it. Like and subscribe and all that good stuff.
Bye. We need to find a better closing than this. Bye, guys.
Say the least.